So I think the climate change is a reality today, and it's urgent. And I was very happy when this team got voted or proposed as one of our exchanges we want to do on this Purple Summit about what is Orange doing about sustainability, and especially with respect to our home solutions and our gateways. So how do we commit to a sustainable home? This is a 15 minutes introduction on this, what we think is extremely important. As Orange as a group, we committed to being net zero carbon in 2040. That means 90% of carbon reduction and 10% of recapturing and storing. So that's, I think, a very ambitious target. We don't only do that in 2040, because that's probably the problem of a few other people and not of many of the current people. So we have intermediate targets, and the first one is reducing it by 30% in 2025. Are you familiar with scope 1, 2, 3? Does that talk to you or not? Yeah? Everybody? Okay, then don't need to explain that. 45% by 2030, and as I mentioned, 90%. We do have quite some levers. We have obviously the usage, the energy consumption, how much do these devices consume, but also and you will see it later on, there's quite a lot in the manufacturing also and the transportation. So there's a lot to do about circular economy. What do we refurbish? How do we recirculate? How do we recuperate hardware? And how do we also make sure that this doesn't start at Orange? We have a whole supply chain related to that. How do we make sure that the supply chain is relevant and takes this into account from the beginning till the very end, being the usage? So if we look a bit at, when we're talking about carbon footprint, what is the carbon footprint of Orange? We have about 7.5 million tons of CO2 globally as a Orange Group carbon footprint, of which 85% is indirect emission. So you immediately see the problem we have. It's not that we are producing, but the indirect emission is 85%, of which 11% is on home devices. So it is relevant. It is a big portion. And if you look at the split, a big portion is about usage, of course, impact, which can be quite different from country to country. If you look at because it depends on how the way electricity is produced. And if you compare, for example, France or Poland, just to take those two countries, you have about a factor of 10 in terms of carbon footprint because of the way, the heavy carbon way, for example, in Poland, electricity is still produced. So there's a quite important impact on the usage, of course, and the purchasing, so the manufacturing of these products, going from the very raw material up to a physical box that can be sold in a shop. So what are we doing? First of all, we are doing what we call an eco-design approach, and it's really from the very start that we think about how are we going to do through all the what we call life cycle analysis. How do we analyze what our box is going to consume, what our gateways are going to consume, and it's a very meticulous job. So it's really about scratching here and there a few nano whatever elements on improvement. So it's very precise work throughout all components, optimizing everything in the supply chain. It's not just about the big things that are obvious. So that's important. So it goes from the material, so the packaging, how do you make the things smaller so that they take less place in the container ships. So a lot of different elements in there. Also refurbishment, as you know, the material is quite important. We do take that into account from the very beginning. How can we easily dismantle it? The way elements are put on the PCBs, how is that easily can be recuperated? What is our capacity to avoid that material gets damaged so that we can easily reuse it and refurbish it? The repairability, the longevity of these elements, etc. Third element on the manufacturing part is that systematically, and that's quite important, is that we request from our suppliers, and it's part of the RFPs, when we send them out, 20% of the quotation or the weight or the evaluation is with respect to CSR responsibilities, so CSR criteria. So it's a quite important element. This is not just a kind of annex to the contract or an annex to the RFP. This is 20% weight into our RFPs. And just to give you an idea, we're recuperating about 3.5 customer premise equipment a year, of which 85% is not presenting any fault. So it is quite a lot of important boxes that we can recuperate, which has obviously a carbon effect, but also an economic effect. I don't think we have to oppose these two. These are in general very aligned. When it comes to use, this is of course something where we have less directly an impact on. It's mainly to do about energy efficiency. This is the key drivers where we have different ways to look at how do we put gateways in low power mode, how do we deactivate the Wi-Fi, or the users can do that in an easy way, having quickly getting quickly awake again. So these kind of elements is an absolute key element. Also the e-ink screens to have less consumption, things like that. And then we're still looking at new features, because this is obviously not done, not finished, where we have more sophisticated based on, for example, how the customer is behaving, because I think that's one of the unique propositions and unique advantages we have when you control the gateway. When you have the gateway, you probably know best what is going on into the home, and adapting and using AI to customize that and to adapt and to propose certain routines, certain adoptions, or certain activations or deactivations to our customers is an important element. Just to give you an idea, when we have 50%, so when we cut the Wi-Fi, for example, for 6 hours on a daily basis on the Wi-Fi, this is a huge amount of saving we can have globally with respect to electricity usage. This is not new, so we didn't start. I shouldn't say when Eco got a hype. I shouldn't say that, but I'd say it nevertheless. We started it from doing it a couple of years ago. Started actually already in 2012, where we had the first real live boxes being designed to be able to and refurbished into our offering. And now with the Livebox 7, which we launched about a month ago, I think it's. Yeah, a month ago, yeah. Where we have even pushed that further with external certification of what our eco design is, with a lot of different advantages. I'm not going to name them all, but of course the refurbishment is a key element. The lifespan of the products, we're going up to 10 years now, not 7 years. So that's also a very important one. Is the more you don't have to change your device every 2 years because it's outdated. So we really design them to have them in for a longer period of terms. Okay. And although we do have, and that's also the challenge, these devices, if you look at them in terms of capacity, the Livebox 3, which is the name of our gateway, in 2010 or 12, don't remember exact timing, is obviously not having the same capacities as our Livebox 7. So despite the fact that we add more and more capabilities, the more and more potential to our boxes, nevertheless we are capable to reducing or at least stabilizing the carbon impact on our different devices. So it's not just reducing carbon impact, it's also offering more functionality, offering richer innovations, and at the same time still lowering the carbon footprint. So what would we want to make sure that the Purple Foundation takes into account is we do have already some elements with respect to the Purple lifecycle management, but we also think that it's going to be needed to work at as well as the low-level APIs and on the high-level APIs with respect to enable, for example, chipsets to enter into low power modes, to be able to switch on and off hardware components, which is going to be a tricky part because you have the collaboration between these components. And on the high-level APIs, giving users, giving applications, giving platforms the capacity to manage these these energy management capabilities, as it is one of the key drivers for impacting the usage impact of our devices on the carbon footprint we have. So we are engaged and we are working on and will contribute to bring our knowledge to the table, but we also count on bringing your expertise, your initiatives to the Purple Foundation to make sure we leverage this for a better, more sustainable world in the future, and we all take part of that, also from a home perspective. Thank you very much.